There's a real sense of tension building around Ibrox right now, and it's the kind of situation that gets supporters talking for days. What started as a routine squad update has quickly turned into one of the most discussed talking points among Rangers fans, especially with fresh confirmation that a first-team player has been training away from the main group. Cornelius, brought in during the summer with expectations of adding depth and experience, now finds himself in a position that few could have predicted just a few months ago. Instead of pushing for minutes alongside the senior squad, he's been working with the younger setup, a move that naturally raises questions about where he truly stands within the club at this moment in time. It's important to remember that Cornelius hasn't had a smooth run since arriving. A significant muscle injury kept him out for an extended spell, disrupting any rhythm he might have been building. For a player trying to settle into a new environment, especially one as demanding as Rangers, that kind of setback can be brutal. Match sharpness, confidence, and tactical integration all take time, and when you're sidelined for months, it feels like you're constantly trying to catch up. His last appearance coming in a friendly months ago only adds to the frustration, because while the rest of the squad has been battling through competitive fixtures, he's been stuck working his way back behind the scenes. What really adds another layer to this situation is the involvement of Canada's national team setup. With the head coach publicly addressing Cornelius' current standing, it's clear that this isn't just a club matter anymore. There's been communication between all sides, with attempts to find a path that benefits both the player and the team. But football isn't always straightforward, and even well-intentioned efforts can lead to complications. From what's been said, there were attempts to bridge communication between the player and the club's management, but things didn't quite land the way they were meant to. Misunderstandings, timing, and pressure can all play a role, and suddenly a situation that could have been resolved quietly becomes far more complex. At the heart of it, the manager's stance seems to be based on competition within the squad. When a team is performing and players are delivering, it becomes incredibly difficult for someone returning from injury to immediately reclaim a place. Managers rely on consistency, and if the current group is getting results, changes don't come easily. That doesn't necessarily mean the door is closed for Cornelius, but it does mean that his path back is going to require patience, resilience, and probably a bit of luck as well. Opportunities in football can come quickly, but they can also disappear just as fast, especially when you're trying to break back into a settled side. There's also the psychological side of all this to consider. Training away from the first team, even if it's framed as part of a recovery or reintegration process, can feel isolating. For a player who arrived with ambitions of making an impact, it's not where you want to be. Yet, at the same time, these moments can define careers. How a player responds, how they push themselves in training, and how they stay focused on the bigger picture often determines whether they manage to turn things around. From everything being said, Cornelius is still fully committed, still working, and still aiming to be ready when called upon, whether that's at club level or internationally. And then there's the timing of it all. With the summer window not too far off, situations like this naturally spark speculation. When a loan signing isn't fully integrated into the squad, people start to wonder what comes next. Will he fight his way back into contention, or could there be a different path waiting for him once the season reaches its conclusion? These are the kinds of questions that don't have immediate answers, but they linger in the background, especially when fans are trying to understand the bigger picture. At the same time, it's worth noting that football squads are constantly evolving ecosystems. Today's fringe player can become tomorrow's key figure if circumstances shift. Injuries, suspensions, tactical changes, or even a run of poor form from others can open doors unexpectedly. For Cornelius, the challenge is to stay prepared for that moment, because when it comes, there won't be time to ease into it. He'll need to be sharp, confident, and ready to prove that he still belongs at this level. All of this unfolds while Rangers continue to navigate a demanding season, balancing domestic ambitions with the expectations that come from being a club of this stature. Decisions made now aren't just about the present, but also about setting the tone for the future. Every player's situation feeds into that wider picture, and while Cornelius' current position might seem like a setback, it's still part of a much larger story that's developing behind the scenes. While that situation continues to unfold behind the scenes, attention has also been turning toward another name that's quietly becoming more and more important within the squad. JD Gimma has been building his presence step by step, and what we're seeing now is a player who is no longer just a promising addition, but someone who's starting to carry real weight in the team's attacking identity. At just 22 years of age, there's already a noticeable maturity in how he approaches matches, and that growth hasn't gone unnoticed by clubs across Europe who have been keeping a very close eye on his development. What makes this scenario particularly interesting is the position Rangers find themselves in regarding his future. Unlike many young talents who enter uncertain contract situations, Gimma is tied down long-term, giving the club a significant level of control. That kind of stability changes everything. Instead of being forced into difficult decisions under pressure, Rangers can afford to be patient, to assess offers carefully, and to prioritize what's best for the squad rather than reacting to external interest. It's a position of strength that not every club gets to enjoy, especially in a market where promising players are often moved on quicker than expected. During the winter window, there was genuine movement behind the scenes. Interest wasn't just speculation or background noise. It was concrete and serious. A proposal came in that would have seen Gimma leave on an initial loan with an option to make it permanent, a structure that has become increasingly common in modern football. The valuation attached to that offer spoke volumes about how highly he is rated outside of Scotland. Yet despite that, Rangers made it clear that they weren't prepared to let him go, not at that stage of the season, and not without a deal that truly reflected his importance to the project. That decision says a lot about the direction the club is trying to take. Holding on to a player in demand, especially when there's financial incentive to sell, sends a strong message. It shows belief in the squad, belief in the player, and a commitment to competing at the highest level possible. For supporters, it reinforces the idea that this isn't just about balancing the books, but about building something capable of delivering success on the pitch. And for Gimma himself, it provides a platform to continue developing without the disruption that often comes with mid-season transfers. On the pitch, his contributions have been steady rather than explosive, but that's often the nature of growth at this stage of a player's career. Goals and assists are part of the story, but they don't tell the whole picture. His movement, his willingness to take on defenders, and his ability to stretch opposition backlines have all added a different dimension to the attack. These are the kinds of qualities that don't always grab headlines immediately, but they become invaluable over the course of a long campaign, where variety and unpredictability can make all the difference. There's also a sense that he hasn't fully hit his ceiling yet, and that's where things get really intriguing. When clubs show this level of interest in a player who is still developing, it's usually because they see something more, something that hasn't even been fully unlocked. Rangers are clearly aware of that potential, and by keeping him in Glasgow, they're giving themselves the chance to benefit from that next step in his progression. It's a calculated approach, one that balances immediate performance with long-term value. Looking ahead, the summer window will inevitably bring fresh attention. Clubs that were previously monitoring from a distance may return with stronger intent, possibly with offers that test Rangers' resolve. That's where the club's current position becomes crucial again. They're not in a situation where they have to sell, which means any negotiation starts on their terms. If a deal were to happen, it would need to align with both sporting and financial objectives, ensuring that the squad remains competitive while also maintaining a sustainable model. From the player's side, everything suggests that he's settled and focused. There hasn't been any indication of unrest or a desire to push for a move, which only strengthens the club's hand even further. When a player is committed, it removes one of the biggest pressures that teams often face during transfer windows. It allows decisions to be made calmly, without the risk of dressing room disruption or external narratives taking control of the situation. All of this creates a scenario where, regardless of what happens next, Rangers are in a favorable position. If Gimma stays, they continue to benefit from a young, dynamic winger who is improving with each passing match and gaining valuable experience in a demanding environment. If a significant offer does arrive and is accepted, it opens the door for reinvestment, giving the club the opportunity to strengthen multiple areas and maintain momentum. Either way, it reflects a level of planning and control that is essential for long-term success, especially in a football landscape that rarely stands still. As the spotlight continues to hover over the squad, there's also a growing sense that internal competition is beginning to shape the direction of the team in a very deliberate way. Players are no longer guaranteed minutes based purely on reputation or previous performances, and that shift is creating a more demanding environment across the board. For attacking players like Gimma, that means every appearance carries added weight, every contribution is scrutinized, and consistency becomes the real currency. It's no longer just about flashes of brilliance, but about delivering week after week in a system that demands intensity and discipline. That competitive edge is something the coaching staff seem determined to maintain, even if it leads to difficult decisions behind closed doors. When a squad is pushing for major objectives, there's little room for sentiment. Selection choices are made based on form, tactical fit, and reliability, and that can sometimes leave talented players having to wait longer than expected for their opportunity. It's a delicate balance, because while competition drives standards higher, it also tests the mentality of those who find themselves just outside the starting 11. For Gimma, this environment could prove to be the perfect platform for growth. Being surrounded by experienced players while also facing pressure from within the squad forces young talents to adapt quickly. It sharpens decision-making, improves awareness, and builds resilience in ways that can't always be replicated through regular game time alone. These are the stages where players often take their biggest leaps, not necessarily in the spotlight, but in the day-to-day grind that shapes their overall development. At the same time, supporters have started to recognize the subtle impact he's having on the team's attacking structure. It's not always about direct goal involvement, but about how he influences the flow of play. His ability to stretch defenses creates space for others. His movement opens passing lanes, and his willingness to track back adds balance to the side. These are the details that managers value deeply, even if they don't always translate into headline statistics. There's also an underlying feeling that the club is building towards something more cohesive, something that blends youth with experience in a way that can sustain performance over time. Holding on to players like Gimma is part of that process, ensuring that the squad doesn't lose its identity every time external interest emerges. Continuity can be just as important as recruitment, especially when trying to establish a style of play that remains consistent across different competitions and challenges. And as the season progresses, every decision, every performance, and every behind-the-scenes development starts to feed into a much bigger picture. The trajectory of individual players becomes intertwined with the ambitions of the club, and moments like these, whether it's a player fighting to regain his place or another solidifying his importance, begin to define how the next chapter will unfold. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. A shockwave is rippling through Ibrox and beyond, as whispers grow louder that Rangers have already sealed a blockbuster signing worth €20 million ahead of the upcoming campaign. While nothing has been made official, sources close to the club suggest the deal is not only advanced, but effectively done. The identity of the player remains tightly guarded, fueling speculation among supporters and pundits alike. Some reckon it could be a dynamic attacking presence, the kind that shifts the balance in crucial fixtures. Others hint at a commanding figure in midfield, someone capable of dictating the tempo and bringing a new level of authority to the side. What's certain is the scale of ambition. A €20 million outlay would signal a bold statement of intent from Rangers, underlining their determination to compete at the highest level domestically and make a deeper impression in Europe. Such a move would not only excite the fanbase, but also send a clear message to rivals that the club is preparing for something significant. Inside circles suggest negotiations were conducted swiftly and discreetly, with key figures working behind the scenes to avoid leaks. That silence has only intensified the intrigue. Supporters scanning every hint on social media believe the announcement could be imminent, though the club continues to keep its cards close to its chest. If the rumors prove true, this could mark one of the most talked-about transfers in recent memory for the Glasgow Giants. For now, anticipation builds, conversations grow louder, and one question hangs in the air across Scottish football. Just who is the mystery man set to arrive at Ibrox? Greetings, fans. Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.